Yeah, I had like a whatchamacallit, like a racist freaking moment. What do you call them? Like microaggressions
On your end, or somebody else's rant against you? Against
on
you?
on somebody else's. Like with my neighbor.
Oh,
The on my neighbor with my neighbor on Friday, cause like Friday is like the trash day. So like you can't put out the trash like before um 3. So I usually start putting it out, like start doing it around like 2:45, because it ain't like, some dude like walks, like some garbage inspector walks around at like
mm,
um like 2:59 to make sure like your garbage isn't out there. But like, if like you put your shit out at like 9 a.m. and like, a cop or some shit is like walking by, like they could give you a ticket, or they could send a ticket to like the landlord, and then that's like a whole nother thing. But like, I'm there doing my trash, and like, I got on like my coat, and like I had on like my hoodie, um and my coat over it, and like my like Scully, my winter hat, and um I got my mask on, because even though it's just like around like the side of my house, like, you never know, people are walking, especially like in the summer. Like there was people walking around with like no fucking mask, and I'm like,
mm.
I'm like going outside to like change my garbage, and like somebody just walking by, just like breathing fucking like COVID in my fucking face, when like, I'm staying at my house, and da 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 da. So I'm not like going out like looking for the shit. Um, so I'm like dealing with my trash, and then like this next door neighbor, and like he's the Mister like, um what the fuck, you like, how would you
Oh,
describe
he's
it?
the
Like,
mayor of your block or something.
yeah, but like
He's,
he's basically like the fucking like like not like the handyman. Like he does all like
oh,
the
yeah,
the the shit. So like I think like my landlord used to like pay him to like cut the
yeah,
grass and like do all our shit.
yeah.
So
There's a
yeah,
yeah, there's a guy in the neighborhood who does that too. Like he'll do favors for people, like throw out the cans and stuff. He'll do like odd jobs. He just does that
yeah,
all day long, and people are like, yeah, he's like that type of guy. This guy like
yeah.
seems
But he's
like
he's like
my
a
guy.
he's like a weird ass like character and shit like that. So I mean, not like a weird character, but like, you see him talking, he's like something like off about him. So
Yeah, I'm assuming that's gonna be me one day. I'll be the guy in the neighborhood like doing things for people. Hey, I do your laundry for you. Come on, just give me a couple of bucks.
yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, boy, it's interesting because I thought about you and this whole shit too, because I'm
What?
like, so what day was that? Wednesday? No, Thursday. No, Wednesday night it snowed, and then
Right.
so like, the where we put the garbage is like on the like you saying where I live. So like, you put it like
Mm,
right on the like out on the street, on like the sidewalk close to the street. So it still had a lot of snow, but we had like a shit ton of garbage because they didn't pick up the garbage. They usually pick up like the regular garbage on Tuesday, and they'll pick up like
mm,
all the garbages on Friday, but they didn't pick up the regular
right.
garbage from Tuesday. So it was garbage that had snow on top of it. So now I got to put more garbage on top of the garbage and the snow. So it's like a mountain of
Mm,
garbage. So I'm there
yeah.
like in the back, like changing the like taking the bag out, changing the bag. So he walks by, and he was like, "Hey, what you doing back there?" So then like I didn't process it in my head. And like I said, it's like a microaggression. Like that's the new
Mm-hmm.
word, because I only learned that shit like through the after the Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, and everybody had this like, Black Lives Matter and Black People Matter now consciousness, that
Mm.
lasted for a hot minute. But
Yeah, yeah. That's been around since like last decade. I've been hearing that too a lot, but especially this year.
yeah, so then
That
I like heard
phrase.
I heard the word and I didn't know what it meant. But then I realized like it like what I used to call it was like that on like subtle or like subversive racism. People just like not really like maybe
Mm.
using their privilege to like be using their privilege to hide behind like being offensive to people. So he comes behind a thing and he looks at me behind a thing. So I thought like he was saying like like hi or some shit like that. And then I'm like,
Mm.
he knew like my mom and like my stepdad like talk to him and shit. Like I don't buddy up with nobody around like where I live.
Yeah.
Like we're like as far as I know, we're one of like very few black people I live over here. So I don't like for one, I don't even fucking like people to begin with. But if you say hi, I say hi back. And only people I fucking talk to is like the people at Delhi, and that's it. Like I don't talk to like nobody here. Like, and even them at the deli, like they're like Arab dudes. So like it's just like, oh, like how much is this? Da da da.
Yeah.
Like you know, but like we chit chat and shit like that. Um, but he said that shit, and then it dawned on me like, yo, like he might have been like being fucking racist till like I went back in the house. So I'm like talking to my mom. I'm like, yo, like it just dawned on me because he said he was like, "What are you doing?" He was like, "What you doing back there?" And I was like, like in that moment, I didn't think, and I was like, I turned around to see that it was him because he had like for some like he had one of them like ATV, like snowplow shits, whatever. He was like moving the snow, and then so I told him like he's out there doing that shit, and like I was like, I don't understand why he didn't do the shit the day before after the snowfall. Like, why are you gonna do it now? Like everybody here knows what time like you put the garbage out, and it's like garbage day. So like, if you were gonna do it, like I appreciate you doing that for the neighborhood. I don't give a fuck. I don't know why you do it, but more power to you. But why the fuck are you doing it now? And then it dawned on me. I was sitting here, and I was like, yo, like I think like he really thought like he was catching some kind of like thug in like the back of our house or some shit. And then like it's like so many different things like piss me off because I'm like, for one, ain't shit to steal in the back of the house. So like we don't have shit lying around or anything like that. It ain't nothing for somebody to like take. And two, like like me and my stepdad, like we like if we both have like our winter clothes on and we're outside with our coat and all that shit, it was either me or him. And like he's friendly with my stepdad, so I'm sitting there like, why didn't he say like hey or something before he said, what are you doing back there? And then on top of that, when I said, he said hey, he said, what are you doing back there? like I like I said, what's up? And he didn't he just he walked off. So like that's when it dawned on me. I was like, no, he was being fucking racist. And I was like, I told my mom, and like my mom told my stepdad about it. So like they want to like they're gonna probably like check him on it. But I told him, I was like, watch, like he's gonna play it off. He's gonna be like, oh, like I didn't know it was him, or like no, I was just saying hi, blah 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 blah, and all that bullshit. And like he's one of them people like, and she like when I was talking to my mom, like she was like, like he said some shit about like they was talking about the virus about COVID, and he said some like racist shit about like Chinese people bringing it over here. And then my mom told me like she had to check him on it. And I'm like, the irony of the shit is like my mom, an Indian woman, and my stepdad, a black guy, like he probably said that shit about like the Chinese thing to them because they're not Chinese. But I bet you like he'll go to like a Chinese person and um he'll go to a Chinese person and be like, oh, like you see what those black guys are doing. What are they doing? What, those guys are rioting because of like they killed that black guy in Boston, in Minnesota. Blah 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 blah. Like you could see him doing that, like switching his racism to like the people like he's talking to, and I'm just like, when I said, I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, when one of us checks him on that shit, he's gonna play it off like, oh, like nah, it wasn't like I didn't mean it like that. I'm not racist, blah 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 blah. And I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, it's like a handful of people I met in my life, and I'm like, they don't have to tell me like there's not a racist bone in their body or they're not racist. This and a third. Like Mike, you're one of them people. Like you've never had to tell me, like, you know what, sure, like I'm gonna let you know I'm not a racist. Blah blah blah. I already know that shit because of how you carry yourself and your actions, and who you are as a person. Other people is like a guy I know from college. Like I know he don't have a racist bone in his body, but like people like him, like like they're gonna be like, oh, I'm not racist, blah blah blah. But they was brought up like that shit. It's like when we was talking about, I thought about it because it was like when we was talking about um the shit with Mad Men, where it's like, that's how like society it was just a part of society that people would just like, I'm white, and people out who are not white are less than me, so I don't think, or even if you're a man, like I'm a man, so if you're a woman you're less than me. I'm a white man, so if you're a woman and you're not white, like you're less than me, like, and it's ingrained in them. And you could see that this guy, he's one of them people that were raised up from people that came from that same time. Like he's like the fucking guy in Green Book where he walks in his house, see these two black guys, these two black electricians fixing his house, and his wife gives them some lemonade. And soon as those guys leave, he throws the glass in the garbage. Like,
Mm.
well, we gotta get in on that one day. Like, if you ever see Green
Yeah.
Book, Mike, I wanna shit on that movie so bad. I gotta be a topic one of these days.
Yeah, well, actually, we're pre-show right now, but we were going to talk about biopics. That's actually considered a biopic in the list I looked at. But funny you should not funny, haha, funny. But there's this thing, my microaggression story. I was a witness, and ironically, last week a good buddy I used to he was like one of my interns
Hmm.
back in media. He actually hit me up on my wrestling. He's gonna puke, and he was like, "Oh man, what's up, Mike? I gotta go on your podcast talk about wrestling because me and him." There's this thing when you start working with people that you subtly like work in that you guys both like wrestling. You don't have to. You don't say it. It takes a while. You have to
Hmm.
like ease into it. So
Yeah.
he was one of them. Somebody else I worked with came up, and then we eventually started talking about it too. But he's an artist, and it actually involves him. So we were in Williamsburg
Hmm.
in Brooklyn, and that's like hipster, like central and everything. But one of the guys, he was like a handyman for like the it's like an apartment building, but it's like a house. There's like four apartments in like one house. So there's like hallways and stuff. So it's like a communal hallway.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's not an apartment building. So we're going in and out all day because we're working at a filmmaker's apartment. So we go to the deli and get a sandwich for lunch. Um, so he went out to get lunch, and so we take turns. So then I hear a commotion outside, and like I look out the window, and um, this guy who I've been seeing like for weeks and all day long. Hey, how you doing, buddy? I go in and out all day long. First time he goes in by himself, the guy goes, "Hey, what are you doing here?" Like right away. It was, the guy was like, "What are you doing here?" And he was just like, and this guy, like, the guy I worked with, just like didn't obviously he's experienced this before, and he was just like, he was about to leave. And I go to him, I go, no, we're with Matt. Um, oh, okay. I didn't know. I just didn't know. I didn't know. I was like, he's been coming for like
Yeah.
a month, man. You didn't see me coming in with him for a month. Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know. Hey, you doing? All right. And he leaves. And he was ready to leave. The guy I was working with, he was ready to go home and said, it's not worth, like, screw this. Because he was like, you could see he was like hurt and stuff.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
was holding back like emotions. He's about to leave. And I was like, it was like that. The music, the strings in the movie would have been playing. It would have been my moment of like, oh, good for him. I was like, don't let that piece of shit ruin your dreams. I said something like that. Like, that would be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that'd be like my Oscar winning. But then I say, come back upstairs. Like, don't worry about this guy. Just whatever.
Hmm.
So then we kept working on. It's like one of the documentaries that I told you about that we worked on. So that's like one of my insights. I was like, oh, all right, yeah. And then people who I talk to, especially in the last 6 months, who like don't get like who don't have experiences with this. At least I got a glimpse into it. I know it means nothing compared to like actual people's experiences. Um, but that's funny. Uh, I wrote down something that you were saying. Yeah, like the selective prejudice thing, where you
Yeah,
said that the guy probably goes up to different people and like targets. You can like
yeah.
imagine that. That happened to me so many times in like 2016 during like Trump's like rise,
Hmm.
2015, 2016. I was a doorman, and they were all like pretty immigrants, like Eastern European. There was a Dominican dude, and the Dominican guy like would like, hey man, and he would like assume that I'm like a Trump guy or whatever, and I was like I could relate to what he was saying, and I was like, what? I was like, no, like he was like they assumed, and I was just
Yeah.
like listening, and be like, nah. I was like, I was just going back on my phone. It was at that type of moments where like people assume, you don't know how they actually like feel and stuff. So yeah, uh,
Yeah.
microaggressions. That's just real,
Uh,
man. Because like it's
and
subtle, and then you build them up. You build them up over years, and then it's like it's
yeah,
traumatic.
it's funny as hell because like I don't fuck with him like that, but like my mom and my like stepdad do, cause it's just like all right, like we live next to these people. The guy comes up to you, you want to make nice with like the neighbors and stuff like that till like they give you reason not to. But like the male people, they dropped off like the name. I mean, they dropped off his mail in our thing. So I pick up the mail and I see it's like a bundle of mail. It's like like it seems like it's all of his mail for the day. So I look at the
Rubber
name and I'm
banded up.
like, yeah, yeah, like rubber band up. And I look at it and I'm like, this might be him. Blah 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 blah. So I'm like, all right, let me. I like told my mom, I was like, yo, like this is his mail, like blah 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 blah. Like we gotta like bring it to him, whatever, whatever. So then I don't know, for some reason my mom went with me to like the deli. Like I was picking up beer and like ice cream or some shit. I don't know. That's usually what I go to the store for. And he so he happened to be there. So it's me. Like I don't fuck with him like that. So I was like, oh, so and so, like, I think we got your mail. Like they dropped your mail off at our house. Like, I went out of my way to say that shit so he could get his mail. Cause you never know. What if it's something important that is like time sensitive, blah 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 blah. You want to get that person back their mail. And I'm like, the other people I live in our building, they probably saw his mail and they would have probably just left the shit there, or the male person would have like never like brought it to him, blah blah blah. But it was me. I was like, yo, that's his mail. Like, let me think. And that situation happened, the other day, and I'm just like, damn. Now I regret doing that shit because that was me being
Mm.
like a neighbor. But you see me and you ain't recognize me. You just see a like big old like black dude. And you're threatened. And then I'm like, the other thing about him was like, it was this thing where like my parents, they was like pissed off because the landlord and him, like I said, do he used to do the garbage. The landlord used to pay him to change our garbage and like mow the lawn and shit like that. And so I guess at one point when we just moved in here and like all our furniture was in blah 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 blah, like the him and the landlord, because the landlord got keys to the place. The landlord came in here, I think, to like fix something or some shit, but for whatever reason, like he had the neighbor with him. And my family is like pissed off to find our shit out, because we actually found out from the neighbor that they came in here. So he told them, he was like, like I was surprised that you guys had such a nice like place, or like you
The
guys keep
hell?
the place so nice. So I'm like, so like they're pissed off, and but rightly so, and I'm pissed off about it too. I'm like, yo, you had somebody like you have access to your house, to our house, and you're bringing other people in. I don't give a fuck if we know the guy or not. Like, you're bringing, like, unless the person is somebody you're bringing in to like fix something, what the fuck purpose is
Yeah.
he have in here, right? So they're pissed
The
off about that.
contractor.
Yeah, they're pissed off about that, and I'm pissed off about it too. But I also, in my mind, I'm like, when he said, like, he was surprised to see that we had a nice plate, we kept the place so nice. He was saying, like, he's surprised that, like, black people, he's saying that, like, he's surprised black people keep their place so nice, because that's the first idea I got in my head. I was like, that's what he was trying to tell you, and that's another microaggression. It's just like, oh,
Mm,
like, oh, you keep your
that's
place
really
nice.
bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah, so my neighbor, we're getting ready to move. So just before we were leaving, we've been in like the new place, as you can see. And but we still gotta like clean out the old place. Got, a little bit of stuff left in there. So we've been spending doing stuff in a day here in a new spot, and then going back to the old place. And the neighbor, of course, Mr. Microaggression himself, um, just as we're like packing up to come back to the new place from the old house, he sees my stepdad. Mind you, my stepdad had to go there yesterday because, yeah, like, these guys come in to patch up, like, the holes from like where we had our TVs mounted and stuff we had set up in the closets and stuff like that. So the guys, I guess, they came before my stepdad got there. So my stepdad wanted to like pull it, in front of his driveway real quick. There's, no parking where we lived. Um, Pull into the driveway, run in, open the door for them so they could go in, get started, stuff like that. So he goes, he gives them the courtesy of going to his door, knocking on his door, and saying, like, listen, I'm gonna just pull here for like a minute. I just need to open the door for these guys to get here. I'm gonna be out of your way. Da, 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 da. He's like, well, I gotta go. I gotta. The neighbor. He's like, well, I gotta go. I gotta go. So you gotta move. You gotta move. Blah 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 blah. That's yesterday. So now today he sees us like getting ready to leave, and he's all like, oh, well, I was like locking the door, so I didn't hear him. And on top of that, I don't fucking like the guy, so I was trying to avoid him. So as we get in the car, my stepdad's like, "Did you hear what he said?" He was like, "No." He was like, "I'm glad you ain't tell him where we're living, like where we live now." So he goes. So he's like, because he told him like we were moving to a different area. Um, Actually, the area that Mike lives, and it's gonna be ironic when I tell you this part. So he's like, "Oh, you guys don't He's like, you guys shouldn't be in Woodlawn. There's too many black people over there." So like my stepdad says to him, is like, I don't know if you know this, but like we're black. So um I was just mad. Like I
Dum
just
dum dum dun, dun, dun. The curb music plays. The hell? The hell does it mean?
yeah, like what the hell was that? Cause like we were actually gonna move to like the white side, but why would you say that to a black man? You gotta have some like fucking balls to say that. Like it's crazy. And like I just kept quiet because of the whole stuff that happened before. I've been trying to, like, I've been ignoring the guy. I'm like, fuck him. He's one of the reasons I'm glad we're moving. Because I'm like, if I would have walked into when he said that, I would have been like, wow, you're a piece of shit, and I'm glad like we don't have to see you after tomorrow. And that would have been my only thing I said to him. But my parents was cool with him, and like I know if I would have said something, they would have been like, oh well, you can't let somebody like that ruin your day or whatever, whatever. Um, but my thing is, it's like I thought about it, and it's like that generation, like those people born like generally like white people I was born in like the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, like children of like baby boomers. they usually have that like mindset of like, they inherently like don't like, you know non-white people or have a certain thing. And it ain't even just like white people, it's like Indian people, Asian people, sometimes Hispanic people, that have this thing where they just like they already have like a prejudice towards like black people. And I think him saying that, like him having like the balls to say like you guys don't belong over there, that's where black people live. It's like him trying to say like you're one of the good ones. Like they come from, that's why I say it's like that 50s, 60s, 70s generation where it's like, where they used to say you're a credit to your race. And people would say that's like a compliment. Like that whole movie, The Green Book, was like a credit to your race, like saying, you're a credit to your race. Like that whole movie was that. And the thing is, like, you're a credit to your race, that whole um thing, because I always used to hear it in movies, or you read up on like Joe Lewis or like Jackie Robinson and people like that. They will always say like you're a credit to your race. Mike, I'm pretty sure you heard that saying.
Yeah, it
And
was Muhammad Ali versus thing. That's all. Wasn't it? That was the whole thing where they were like picking sides. Yeah.
it's basically trying to say like, yo, black people in general are like they ain't shit, but apparently you're the one black person that is like worthy of like being part of society. It's a very like when you talk about backhanded comments, backhanded compliments. That's a backhanded compliment right there. It's actually insulting. So it was just wild. Like before we left, that's what he said.